The whole Liam Kumar Day effect, not really happening.
Nigel couldn't make it.
Yeah.
I rang up Mendenhall, he said he could make it.
Don't think this whole Phil, credit to the guy, always manages to do well what he has, but he is a shocking personality. You guys got a trophy? No.
It was pre-vim.
No, my life from Rashad Mendenhall.
Right, here we go. I'm a tag, Jack! I'm a fucking tag!
Hello and welcome to another episode of the LOC Report, a Thanksgiving Day episode, not day, but Thanksgiving week episode of the LOC Report, no less. And we've got the co-host back from his charitable endeavours. How's it going, Chris?
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, it is a wonderfully fresh day today. It's, yes, back to charitable endeavours, so I don't feel quite as, I feel a bit more with it today, that's for sure.
Good. Glad to hear it. Yes, after that marathon, yes. Well, God, what hours did you must have got at least up into 30 plus hours, easily, without going to, well, other than a few naps and stuff.
A few naps here and there. Oh, it was, what was it? Yeah, it was more than 30, for sure.
I was going to say, proper sleep to proper sleep, it would have been...
yeah. I woke up at 6:30 on the Friday, bed until what, midnight on the Sunday morning. So anyone who can do maths better than me, probably better.
Yeah, a long time. We'll leave that up to you, viewers. Yeah, indeed. It's Thanksgiving week. Obviously, as such, we've had a large number of NFL games already, even more so because they obviously had the first Black Friday game yesterday, so that's going to make the previews a bit more interesting. But obviously, before we get to all of that, we have the recaps and everything to do. So, let's just get straight to it and go into the recaps. Okay, so it was obviously a solo pod last week, Chris. So I chose the marquee matchup last week, which was the Detonators against UR Gold, because this was obviously a fierce playoff game, effectively, or playoff race game, with obviously UR Gold holding the wildcard spot and the Detonators being tied for the lead in Winchester, obviously chasing the wildcard themselves. UR Gold in the Ollie Bowl came out supreme, though, 97-83. They now move to 9-2. 5-game win streak as well, and depending what happens in the Pakistan game, they could not only have the Southampton division, but potentially the number 1 seed. That obviously means a loss for Ollie. He's dropped to 6-5 with that. So again, depending what happens in the Gridiron Gang game, would obviously dictate what happens in the division there. But looking down here, so UR Gold just keep tracking. Chris Purdy has been a great ad for them in the wake of Fields' injury.
Absolutely, and it's interesting you say that, because that is the difference in this game. It's very, very close in terms of scoring in this game, except the quarterback, of course, and where that is, we see that 14-point difference there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference between the two teams in the box score as well. So I think that that start of Purdy's good. Obviously, if he'd have played Fields, he'd still won.
Yeah, it would have been closer. Yeah.
Yes. So some obviously key performers there. Pollard's finally turned up this week after a long time.
And Metcalf. Both of them have been pretty disappointing.
Absolutely, but big shout out to Jason Myers, the kicker there, 15 points.
He keeps getting bailed out with these kicker and special teams points. If you go back over his last month, I would say the amount of teams he's generated from those positions, points he's generated from those positions, insane.
It's meant to be this time. He does keep rolling, as you say. Whilst Ollie, but on the other side, say it's a solid score. If not spectacular. I think the key guys there, Swift and Ford, obviously getting the touchdowns, but outside of that, nothing really to get too excited about skill position wise. Again, a reasonably big score when you kicker in defence as well. And the right home. Too much about the bench though. Obviously, Devontae Adams there at 14 points. So playing someone like McBride or Kincaid over him is a bold but possibly
it is, but the Miami defense has been good. AOC has sucked, and I mean, if you watch that game, Adams got all of that production basically on one catch. He was completely erased outside of that. So
class permanent man. Certainly a couple of tight ends who are solid, but are they part of the offense? Not really. That's the only quibble that I would have there. Even then, it wouldn't have made a difference.
No, exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, you are gold. So this year's really it definitely the surprise team of the year for sure. How consistent they've managed to make things, and on a 5-game winning streak as well. Mad.
Yeah, no, it's insane. I mean, we'll come on to it in the standings and stats, but the points against, is doing a lot of the heavy lifting here, but it's not completely all of that, as you say. So, and then the only other point I have for Bedetnes is, they're obviously 6 and 5. They've been in the mix. That we know about all the injuries and everything they've suffered, but you do just kind of get the sense that, and I think I put it in the power rankings this week, that they've lost, I think, 4 of their last 5 or something now. It does just feel like the season is slipping away just a bit, and the team doesn't really have the teeth to compete with, a lot of the other. It's a solid team, as evidenced, as you say, by the score, but it just doesn't have the teeth to compete with some of the other teams in the league.
Absolutely not. No, it wouldn't have any legs going into the playoffs anyway. Now I think it's just been gutted out with injuries just too much. He's managed to do a really good job of getting into the position that he's in right now, but for me, no chance of progressing further, I'm afraid.
Yeah, indeed. The next game then, by the way, I picked You Are Gold in that one, so I'm off to a good start in terms of the picks. Yeah, thank you. Next one then is Ross's team against Pakistan, the Goose Bowl, and we're gonna need this for this game, of course, because wow. Oh, God. Well, I picked Pat to win this one. I mean, I don't really think that was a winner, but Pat drops an unbelievably winnable game at the absolute worst time because, as I said, depending what happened in this game with the You Are Gold win would dictate what happens to Pat in your garden. Yeah, Pat drops from the first seed to the wild card with a 66 to 63 point loss against Ross's team. Bye weeks came at the worst possible time for Pat, I think, because all of Kamara, Olave, and arguably Josh Downs as well on a bye. He also lost Kenneth Walker in this one, which also hurt as well. Obviously, neither Goff or Stroud had a brilliant day. They were okay, but obviously wouldn't make the difference here, Chris. And it's a big missed opportunity for Pat.
Massive missed opportunity for Pat, and the Saints duo on bye has not helped his doing this week, but you've got to look there, and there's a lot of pretty average lines there from guys you'd expect a little bit more from, like a Harris. Well, I suppose Harris would be against that defense is difficult against that front, but Dylan came into the game and again didn't do a great deal as he hasn't done most of the season. Losing Walker's a big one. Detroit had a terrible offensive game, really.
Mm-hmm.
Just couldn't get anything going. They still managed to find a way. In fairness, DJ Morey's been their bright spark for most of the season there. But the question mark's always been over the skill positions of this team. And you can see that it's paper thin. That if one of those key guys goes down, obviously Kamara and Olave's coming back in, and DJ Stroud's been a complete stud over the last maybe 3 or 4 week spell. But when there's a down week, this is the floor, and a low floor it is. But ferocity is no better. I mean, say you expect a team with those that 4 tight ends in the team there, nothing on the bench to really, in fact, nothing on the bench to shout about at all. I'm not even
some buys, and obviously Higgins missed the game with injury as well.
No, exactly. And I will say that Dak Prescott, to be fair to him, has been a good. He picked him up and running with him. And he's been keeping them going, thankfully George Kittle's using that offense. Otherwise, that would be a really embarrassing score there for Ross. But Pat's score is no better really, and obviously it takes to a loss. I think the injury there to Kenneth Walker is probably the game-changing decision there.
There's another thing, and it might be hypercritical of me, but I had Riley Patterson for one game earlier this year, but before I settled on Brandon Aubrey, and I vowed never again to play the Detroit kicker because we know what Dan Campbell is like. We know how aggressive this team is in terms of 4th down. And while they are a pretty good offense and they kind of get in the opportunities, it just doesn't result in field goal position. And in a game where you only lose it by 4 points, 7 points is not it's a normal week for a kicker, if anything, even a slightly subpar week perhaps. So that's potentially the difference here for me. And the win with for Ross's team, Ross, amazingly, Ross is still alive in the divisional race.
I can't believe it.
Mathematically, anyway. We'll come on to all of that in a second. But I picked Pat to win this one, so yeah, as I say, that one blew up and never mind. We're going to the next game then, which is bucking the trend against Ixan. Again, Ixan, another one of these playoff hopeful teams. Bucking the trend was obviously just looking to avoid setting a new worst start to the LOC season. At 1-9 already. I think I started 0-9 one year, but I got back to I think 2-9 or something like that. So a loss would have set the new worst record, but Bucking the Trend avoids it. 93-63. Ixan again, talking about one of the playoff teams, just really having a bad week at the absolute worst time. I picked Ixan to win this game as well, and I'm now out on Ixan, Chris, because Aaron Jones injured again, wasn't playing especially well necessarily. Austin Eckler, he just looks a bit washed. Obviously, this Chargers team just isn't clicking once again. And really, the only bright spot on the team is Evans, because as we know, Mahomes isn't quite the Mahomes that we've seen previously, largely down to his receivers, I might add, as opposed to anything he's doing himself. And I think, it's week 11 here. Ben is still starting Alexander Mattison. I think that kind of tells you all you need to know about Ben's team this year, to be honest.
Yeah, I think you're right. And you see on the bench there, he's got Christian Watson, he's got Cortland Sutton.
I cannot believe he benched Cortland Sutton. He's been a touchdown machine this year.
That's it, absolutely right. It's a different guy. So, but at the same time, it makes zero difference.
Oh no.
Ben's strategy of holding on to Mahomes and hoping he was big and putting a few consistent performers around him just hasn't worked out for him this year. In a way that we haven't seen for a few years. Aaron Jones going down makes all the difference there, but at the same time, that three running back room strategy this year just hasn't paid off for people. But by and large, people have gone for it. So either that there's been committee running backs or his injuries or offensive struggles or whatever it is, receivers have been the dominant force this year. So.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's let everybody down who's gone that way. But yeah, I agree with your assessment there. I think obviously 62 points is a terrible time to be able to score that, especially when there are resurgent teams around him, shall we say. I think for Ben he's just got to focus on getting to that 500 record again, getting out the season and cashing in his chips. Whilst for Mike, it's another again. He's had a few of these performances where he's come out with 85, 90, 95 points in that sort of region, but he's almost always been blown out of the water by someone who's scored 130. So this is what this team is. But he's hung his hat on big performers there. So obviously Saquon's gone to 26 points this week. Hopkins gets his touchdown, and Tua's put in a solid quarterback performance too. Other than that, nothing unbelievable to write home about. I think Devontae Smith turned up with 99 yards as well. It's the first time for a while. Nothing on the bench. So yeah, good for Mike. It's good that he hasn't been blown out in a week like this. Scored in, but has needed to be able to get his points on the board, shall we say?
Yeah, definitely. No, yeah, some positive regression for sure in terms of the amount of points he's faced. Like you say, the score for Bucking the Trend is kind of they have done this more often than not this season. I would add, do not expect Barkley to pop up like this every week. I think it was just that terrible Washington defense. Obviously, we know while DeVito had a decent day, that they are still going to focus to take him away. And no, good for Michael the same. On to the next game then. So Gridiron Gang wins bare necessities. It's the Father-Son Bowl, a Founder Bowl, the Corona Bowl 2 rematch, all of the things. I picked myself to win this one, and I did win it, and we get our first score of the week, 120 points to 95. Solid day by Medab, but yeah, 1 year faced 120 points. As we know, it's tough to overcome that.
Yep.
And obviously with the Bedetonators loss, this win takes me into sole possession of the Winchester division. Nothing really too much to add on my team. We've kind of talked about previously. A lot of guys turned, obviously. Just I wanted to call out one. Tank Dell is that guy, Chris.
Tank Dell is that guy. So we have a breakout performer. I will say that I think obviously your dad appears to be demoralised at 3-8 there. After this week, but yeah, to play someone who's on a bye, and Marquise Brown, and there is a path to victory there.
There is.
But yeah, to only play one less player and to have a chance, and that player to be on a bye. Ah dear, not good. But overall, yeah, I totally agree. That's a nice stat line for your team. Obviously, Josh Allen's come back out this week. 28.5 points was kind of what you'd expect him to be, and then solid performances from Dell, who really has been the man for you after in the second half of the season. Christian McCaffrey, brilliant all year. Obviously, Montgomery back and doing what he's known for, which is scoring touchdowns and running. And again, useful contributions from Pacheco, Aubrey, and of course the Dolphins D there.
Oh, yeah.
So you'd expect that against Vegas, of course. So on the other side, very good kicker and tee score, obviously, for your dad. Lamar's come up with good numbers for the first time in a while, as has Joe Mixon. But yeah, if you just think to yourself, right, throw a Gus Edwards in there, which you think you've done, and Nakua maybe in there as well. I'd certainly played him over Marquise Brown. Then yeah, that's a victory there. In a high scoring game. So yeah, it's one loss, but again, it makes zero difference to the season. Ben necessities were forked anyway. You march on.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think I overcame the chart's not loading, but he would have had Lamar, Joe Mixon, and Evan McPherson. So I think I overcame basically about a 54-point deficit from the Thursday night game to come back and win this one. Like you say, kind of helped obviously by there being one less player on the other side. And my dad's team has now dropped 7 in a row.
Wow.
This is not a 3-8 team, like you say. I think, which is because he was paying attention at the start. He obviously added Edwards and Puka after week 1 waivers, and yeah, he's just not really checked his team much since then. It's a great shame because I think this is a team that you would just looking at it on paper, you would say, yeah, they're in the playoff race, right? But they're not. So. Just as you say, it is where they are. And then the other thing you kind of touched on there, Alan, solid day. You say you expect that from him. He has been a bit up and down. He does typically come through points. And this was against the Jets, who the Jets really do seem to have Alan's kryptonite more often than not. But maybe Joe Brady, the new offensive coordinator for the Bills, is there to save his and the Bills' season. So it'll be interesting to see if that was just a flash in the pan 1 week change, or as part of the normal Allen roller coaster ride, or if there's actually maybe been a bit of a change there. So I don't think I have anything else to add other than was there something else I wanted to add? Oh, I picked myself to win this one, so I got that right too. So there you go. We'll go on to the next game then, which was Forge Flyers against Great Scott, and again. Forge Flyers with probably the first buzzsaw, or being on the right side of the buzzer at least for the first time this season, 120-92 with the upset win. A week of upsets really after the Ross wins and the Bucking the Trend wins as well. But yeah, you take down Great Scott 120-92 points, and you know what, Chris, one better than that. I only went and locked it up. I went back to your team. It didn't work the week before, but stuck with your team, and it came through in a big sport here. And really good. We'll start off with your side. Really good performance by your team. Calvin Ridley, he turned up. He loves playing with Zay Jones. That seems to get him going for whatever reason. Brandon Ayuk's legit as well. Obviously, the Cowboys D is just insane. If you're watching Thanksgiving, Deron Bland has now set the record for pick sixes all time with his 5th, and he got his 4th, I believe, in this one as well. So great week all around for your team, really, Chris. Yeah,
huge week, and yeah, absolutely. Finally, Calvin Ridley's turned up in a week that definitely. Week 5, wow! And since then, since week 5, would you believe the entirety of his scores haven't even got to 24?
Wow.
Or 24 points in one game, so finally that's come good, which has been most of the struggle this year, to be quite honest. Consistent point scorer, but yeah, consistent scoring there. Hal scored 19 points despite 3 picks. 24 points from Ridley and 21 points from Ayuk, who, you're right, I think he's been the pick for me of the year. Certainly in the last 4 games, he's been excellent. But yeah, we talked about it earlier on. You say that running back room, Henry, Hunt, and Henderson there.
Nice stream of Henderson, by the way. I wrote that down specifically.
Yeah, well, his stats don't really prove much. 1 yard rushing for the touchdown, 28 receiving yards, but 9 points. So can't really complain. And yeah, the Cowboys D for me have been the cheat code this year. They've equated to being a serious player. I don't know if you look at the score, but they've scored an ungodly amount of points this year for me. So yeah, without them, I think my team would be significantly worse off. What's on the other side? Great Scott. Aside from a Trevor Lawrence resurgence this week, 36 points and a couple of handy scores from some Brown and Gibbs in that back and forth game in Detroit. There wasn't a great deal to write home about there. 92 points is solid enough, though. And that's the thing. Just got to keep plugging away for a team like that. They are 6-5. I think they've got more in the locker than that. But yeah, they're big guns. Mostert and Chase particularly had slightly down weeks in comparison to others. There was no route to victory, thankfully. So yeah, they move on. But 92 points in a loss at this point of the year, when you're going for points for wildcards and things like that, is exactly what you want.
No, yeah, indeed. And you say, I mean, one more to say, this was a kind of a different route to the solid score for Great Scott, because much of the year Trevor Lawrence and quarterback in general for Great Scott has been the issue. This is the week he popped up, but then the rest of the team fell away a little bit. So, it'll be interesting to see how that continues, because obviously Chase has been a large part for the success, and losing Burrow now as well, you wonder how effective he'll be. Excuse me. I was quite surprised to see him throw Achan straight into the lineup as well. I know he was obviously phenomenal when he was playing early in the season. First game off the IR, though he did, unfortunately, obviously, it doesn't sound like it was too severe enough. It kept him out of the game this week as well, albeit that was a short week. But I don't know. I felt it was a bit of a bold choice to go throw Achan straight back in. Off the bat, it wouldn't have made the difference even if he'd have played someone else there. But there it is. And there, like you say, I mean, it wasn't too long ago the Great Scott was actually the number 1 seed, and since then they've dropped 3 games on a bounce now. And I don't think they've necessarily done too badly across that period as well. So, but like you say, obviously the points certainly keeps them in the race. And just going back to your point against the Cowboys D, they have outscored the next closest defense by 41 points. Which is the Cleveland Browns. So just a testament to how good they have. Granted, they've got an extra game, I think, on the Browns at this point with the Thanksgiving game, but they're still going to have a certain point seed, and even then you go a bit further, and obviously you can see they're quite a bit ahead of a lot of the others. So yeah, they have been a large portion of your success. And Chris, I mean, I've talked about you've done a good job of rebuilding the QB room, because you've obviously lost Cousins, you've lost Richardson, you've got Murray and Howell at the moment. If only you'd have kept that Prescott.
Please, if it wasn't for Anthony Richardson's dodgy shoulder, can you imagine where I would be now?
Yeah.
But the house unfortunately collapsed on me.
It happens. Then the last game of last week, it was the Dream Team against Thomas Tyrants, and for one last time, we're gonna have to change the blades on this bus this week. They're getting worn. 127-76, the highest score in the week by the Dream Team. With the Great Scott and Exan loss, they now hold a 2-game lead in the Portsmouth division on the way. With having a 4-game winning streak. So they are looking very, very good with only 3 games to go. I picked the Dream Team for this one, so we get a good finish on the week for me as well. What can stop this team, Chris? He picks up Devin Singletary. He chips in with 18 points straight away. The rest of the roster is fantastic. He's got Jalen Moore on the bench scoring 21 points as well. Yep. My word.
No, they've got a lot of offensive pieces there and offenses that are firing. You look down there and there's strength everywhere. And those 2 receivers right now, you look at Hill and Lamb, probably the 2 form receivers in the entire league.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't beat that. There's solid options defensively. Breece Hall is the offense for the Jets. Singletary looks like he's going to be set in for the starting role at running back for the Texans for the rest of the year. You're right. You can swap in Jalen Warren if you want to. If Etienne's having a bad week, it's exactly where you want to be this time of year. But you've just got guys who go in the right direction. For Tom, I think it's an unfortunate circumstance. At receiver there, I think Cooper Cup hasn't lived up to his first round bill this year.
He did get injured in this game as well. It's worth pointing out. But beyond that, it's still a fair comment.
He's been relatively injury prone. You see that throughout much of the year as it is. Garrett Wilson lost his quarterback early, so you can't really knock that. Now Burrow's out. It's just a disappointing set of affairs. But
it wasn't a bad week actually. But you strip all that away, for this.
That's right. So you're effectively playing 2 players down, and you've got a quarterback that's scoring half points to the average. So you look at Allen Cook and Robinson there. That's great. But I think even then it would have been difficult to try and overcome that 126 points on the other side as it was. Tom's got to find himself a quarterback and find himself a quarterback fast. But there's no replacing your receiving room, unfortunately. And looking on the bench, there's just you can't turn to Drake London and Pickens with the offenses there at the moment. Maybe Thielen. I think Thielen's had a sneaky good year, bearing in mind they haven't been that great. But it's again a tale of two halves for him. It's like he started well before the bye, and after the bye, his points been taken away. Like I say, Tom's not in contention this year as it is anyway, but Viv very much is. That's a scary looking team right now.
Yep, definitely. That was the last game of the week there. So with the pick and then that brings me to 31-23 for the season, 95-70 all time. And then I pick up the lock. That puts me back over 500 for the season, 5-4 in all time. I'm 15-13. We'll take a look at the around the league bits now. Let's see what this has for us this week. So I've beaten my projected score 5 weeks in a row. Love to see it. Personally, Great Scott, they have also beaten their projected score 4 weeks in a row, but they've dropped 3 on the bounce as we've seen. So not all that's made up to be necessary. Tom's Tyrants has beaten their projected score 3 weeks in a row as well. Teams have won 50% of the time when starting the league's top scoring quarterback of the week. 4-4 overall. Again, it's quite the surprising stat. All things considered, you are gold there on a 5-game win streak, as we know. Dream Team on a 4-game win streak. Teams with a top 5 scoring RB this week went 2-1 overall. Again, that checks out. And teams have only won 18.2% of the time this season, 4-18 when they failed to throw a passing touchdown. Again, that kind of makes sense because if your quarterback's not throwing a touchdown, you're probably not having a good score. With that, then we will go on to the league news. And starting off with key injuries, so we touched it there. Dewan Achan, he re-injured his knee that put him on IR earlier in the season for Great Scott. Supposedly wasn't too serious. He was kind of trying to push to come back in the game, but they wanted to hold him out. He did not play on Black Friday yesterday either, but it isn't something that's thought to be too serious, so he could be back as soon as next week. Joe Burrow, as we'd already talked about, he's done for the rest of the year with a wrist injury for Tom's Tyrants, and then Cooper Kupp suffered that ankle injury as well. It does sound like he's going to play this week though for Tom's Tyrants. Here's one though, Chris. Kyron Williams, he has been activated off of the IR, running back for the LA Rams, and detonators. How big is that potentially for Ole here over the last 3 weeks of the season, Chris?
I think it helps, bearing in mind he's got a flagging team. He's interestingly not playing him this week, as we'll see later on, or at least at the moment he's not playing.
Mm-hmm.
But for a team like that who needs a couple more offensive weapons just to get them going a little bit, it could be a big time move. Yeah,
definitely. I strongly suspect he will be in the lineup come game time. Mark Andrews, he suffered an ankle injury, likely to miss the rest of the season, certainly the rest of the fantasy season for Ross's team. As we said, Cam Walker has an oblique injury that kept him out of the Thursday night Thanksgiving game as well, but again, not necessarily something that's going to be too serious. Was supposedly not too far off playing in that one as well. And then Aaron Jones for Ixan, again, he suffered an knee injury. It looked like it would be a season ender at the time, but Again, did not play this week on the short week for Thanksgiving, but he could be back sooner rather than later as well. From a transactions perspective, nothing notable this week really. Not a lot of money spent, not a lot of ads in general, so nothing to call out there, though I did like your perspective out of Michael Wilson, Chris, I will say that. Then what else? Oh yeah, the last waiver instalment is going to be after this week's games as well, so after that point, obviously whatever budget you have left is what you've got. Standing stats and milestones. If we start off with the key milestones, we've got a couple of cool ones this week. So, Coach Sub Senior, my dad, he's notched now his 100th career loss. He is the final of the still continuously active founding teams to join the 100 loss club. So all of them now have notched 100 losses in their career. So welcome in, Dad. And then Coach Gardner Beddoes, this one's a nice one. He notched last week his 50th career and regular season win. So congrats to you, Coach Gardner Beddoes. Okay, looking at the signings and stats and everything, then I will give it my go with this one, Chris, but I may throw it over to you if I end up in a coughing fit. So the Southampton division, you are gold at the top here at 9-2. They are now the number 1 seed in the LOC with their win in the Pakistan loss last week, and they are on a 5-game winning streak as well. Pakistan with the loss still at 8-3 though, still holding on to the wild card here, so still in pretty good shape. And then Tom Tyrants 4-7 fortifies 3-8 to round out the Southampton division. For the Polster division, the Dream Team now has a 2-game lead on their 4-game winning streak, 8-3. They've also got a lot of points in the bag, 60 over Great Scott, who sit at 6-5, and then 200 points over Ixan, who are also 6-5. So, you know, at this point of the season, those extra points can effectively count as an extra win, given that he's 2 games ahead with 3 to go as well. The Dream Team is looking in a very good spot to lock up the Portsmouth division here. And then Bare Necessities at the bottom here at 3-8. And then the Winchester division, Gridiron Gang now in sole possession of that, 7-4 with their win last week. But Detonated 6-5 behind them. And again, similar to the Portsmouth division, only a game behind, but Gridiron Gang has 1,215 points to Bud Detonator's 1,045. So that points advantage acting almost as another win there for Gridiron Gang. Then we've got Ross's team, as I said in the recap, still alive mathematically in the division, 4-7, 3 games behind. But again, 927 points, so nearly 300 points behind Gridiron Gang. So unlikely to bridge that gap, and then bucking the trend there at 2-9 overall. So if we look at the overall then, so the playoff picture at the moment is obviously the division leaders, you are gold, the Dream Team and Gridiron Gang, the division leaders, Pakistan, the wild card, and then Great Scott is the current points forward wild card. He has 30, how many points? He has, no, not quite 30, he has 27 points over the Detonators. At the moment in the points forward wildcard, so it's a pretty close race, and then Ixan is the next closest. Actually, no, Bad Necessities is the next closest behind that at 939. So an interesting race there. And at the moment, the playoff seeding would actually see Gridiron Gang go to the wildcard bowl, given that Pakistan has the superior record at 8-3 with those new rules there as well. Obviously, that would be facing Great Scott. In terms of the points forward, so Gridiron Gang still leading the league in points with that 1,215. Next closest is the Dream Team in second with 1,138. Then you can see there's a gaggle of teams that in the low to mid 1,000s there after that. And then obviously everyone else is all over 900 points, so we don't have anyone who's dramatically bad in points scoring this year. Looking at points against, unsurprisingly, despite actually getting some positive regression last week, bucking the trend, still the highest conceded team with 1,116, but the gap isn't too wide now. Great Scott, 1,089. It's interesting, actually, as the season has gone on, we've not really seen, Chris, that there isn't a team now that has been significantly, absolutely had the points dropped on. Obviously, that has been Mike's team, but it has equalised a bit, because you can see there are 9 teams in total who've conceded over 1,000 points, so like I say, obviously bucking the trend is the top of that metric at 1,116. But yeah, it's not too severe a gap. But I'd say, yeah,
it's not like we talk the historic highs of Mike's team through the first 6 weeks. But yeah, as you say, since then, a definite increase in scoring for sure. Yeah.
On the bottom, that's a different story though, because there are 2 teams still yet to concede even 900 points. So while the upper end, it's, if you're talking about bell curves, the bell curve is sitting firmly more towards the highest scoring, but there's a few stragglers with the least scoring, and that is Pakistan and UR Gold. Bear in mind, they are the 2 best record teams in the league right now, and one of those the number 1 overall seeds. So, yeah, not surprising there. And then Xan and the Dream Team are the only other ones that are under 1,000 there. I don't think there's anything else significantly to call out with that. So we're going to the breakdown. So Gridiron Gang still at the top here, 92 and 29. Through the season as a whole, the Dream Team moves into second place in this metric now, 74 and 47 throughout the year. And again, it's a fairly close race, really, all the way from there down to 6th here. Separating that is 65 and 56 as the 6th place team, and much of those are the playoff teams or the playoff hopeful teams as well, so again, that's not entirely surprising. Looking at the other end of the table, it's again all quite close at the bottom. You can see all from 11 to 8 there. The breakdown is 47 to 74 and 48 to 73, so really close disparity among the bottom teams. So it's like a 2-tiered league at the moment. The 2 tiers are pretty close together for what they are. Looking at the coach score, Ross's team still remains top here. Myself, Ross and Mike all had a perfect week last week. There were obviously some buys and things last week, but yeah, that's good. 3 teams remain under 100 points left on the bench through the course of the season, which is obviously 11 weeks now, so that's obviously less than 10 points left on the bench a week, which is pretty damn good, I would say. Then again, we've got a few teams just over the 100 mark, few in the mid-tiers, and then we get to the bottom. Chris, you are still leading this category by far, 229 points left on the
Brilliant.
bench.
There we go. What could have been?
So, yeah, while there's 3 teams averaging less than 10 left on the bench throughout the season, you are averaging over 20 left on the bench every game this season.
Yeah. That's the perils of holding quarterback.
Yeah, it sure is. Yeah, and then Ben Necessities, to be fair, not too far off you really. They're 181, courtesy of 32 points there last week. In fact, they've had some real shocking weeks over the last 6 weeks or so. 33 points to 44 points. That's what happens when you don't pay too much attention to your team, I suppose. So that's it for the standing stats and milestones and everything. Check out the power rankings if you've not done so already. They came out early this week. With that, we will go on to Debate Corner. For that, we need John. Where are you, John? Oh, do you have something to add before we go to Debate Corner, Chris? Or no? No. Yeah, sorry, John. Continue, John.
Order.
Thank you, John. He's busy trying to calculate how much more money he has with the recent tax cuts, and yeah, he's happy chappy. But for this week's Debate Corner, we've focused obviously on the playoff teams and things over the last few weeks. We've talked about what is the most likely team to be the regular season winner. Last week, Chris, you went here, but I did of the kind of playoff hunt teams, which teams would likely miss out. But this team, we're going to turn it to the other end of the table because we are an entire league, let's not forget. And we did see some upsets last week. So the Debate Corner for this week, Chris, is who will finish as the lowest scoring team come the end of the season. So just to read it out, I'm going to take everybody under 1,000 points because after you are gold in 6th, yeah, with 1,023, there's a drop off to 7th, which is Mike, who has 943. But then from Mike onwards, it's my dad with 934, Ixan with 938, Ross with 927, Tom with 922, and then you with 908, Chris. And as we saw, obviously the bench points probably suppressing you in this category, but you are the current lowest scoring team. But yeah, Debate Corner, who will be the lowest scoring team come the end of the season?
Well, I feel my chances are good. I think my mid-year was absolutely disappointing from week 5 to week 9. So things have got slightly better in the last few weeks. Yeah, I think teams on the slide. I think teams that don't have a quarterback's a problem. I think that Ross's team will always have a capped ceiling, and but Dak has obviously been really good in the last few weeks. So, do you know what? I'm gonna go with. I think Tom's team is definitely in declining.
Yeah.
And isn't stable and doesn't have a quarterback really that's solid. So I'm going with that.
Yeah, no, I think I'd agree. Yeah, losing Burrow for Tom's team is pretty big. There are a few other pieces there, but beyond that, and perhaps inconsistent quarterback play, yeah, it's kind of a recipe for disaster. Yeah, the only reason I definitely wouldn't say your team is because, while you are bottom at the moment, as I say, the coach score does suggest that there are points on the team. I'm always more willing to go with the team where, the points are there in some fashion, and get some of the regression there to happen as well. The other sneaky dark horse team, I would say, I think Ross is going to be fine because he's still got Prescott. He's getting Taylor back from bye. I think he'll do enough. But the sneaky team here, I may say, is actually Ben's team at 938 because
Ooh.
if Mahomes continues in the way he has, he's not been piling up the points like he has done previously for Ben's team. And as we just said, there's not necessarily a lot else to go with Ben's team at the moment. So he could potentially be a sneaky one, which is very ironic given that he's in the thick of the playoff race at the moment. So. There you go. Oh yeah, speaking of that, actually, so I talked about the obviously the race for the points forward wild card, obviously currently being mainly between Detonators and Great Scott. But in terms of the wild card race as well, obviously the wild card is sitting at 8-3 at the moment. So obviously, if you're 5 wins or less, you are officially eliminated from the traditional wild card. And obviously, there's a couple of teams sitting with 6 wins at the moment. So, it's going to be hard to unseat the traditional wildcard at the moment as well, with Pakistan sitting at 8-3. So that's kind of interesting there as well. Okay, then. So that takes us on to the previews for week 12 then. So in week 12, we have Gridiron Gang against Bucking the Trend. That's a Waypoint Bowl. We have UR Gold against Forge Flyers. Pakistan against Tom's Tyrants, which is an NFC South Bowl. They both support NFC South teams. Ixan against Ben SSDs. The Dream Team against Great Scott. And Ross's team, which is Lazy Townsend this week against Detonators. That's a Founder Bowl. Only really one matchup between playoff teams, which is the Dream Team Great Scott game in the Portsmouth division. Which game do you want to go with for the marquee matchup this week, Chris?
That is the exact one I'm going to go with, because it's not only that, it's got something riding on it, and it is also, as we'll see in a minute, very fine poised.
Yes, as I said at the top with the games, obviously 4 games already progressed. Yeah, there is a fair amount of points already on the board, so some games are already on their way to the final results. So, okay, here we go then. So for the marquee matchup for week 12, the Dream Team against Great Scott. Portsmouth leading Dream Team take on chasing a Great Scott here in week 12. One team's carrying a 4-game win streak, the other's a 3-game losing streak. A win by Great Scott here makes the division a bit more interesting going into the last couple of weeks. A win by the Dream Team, I didn't talk about it again in the same stats, but would clinch the division effectively, obviously depending on what happens in the next game, but effectively clinch the division for the Dream Team. We do have points on the board here, 52-38. Projections have it at 104-96 though, so this game's still very much alive. We'll start off from the Dream Team side of the board. In terms of roster changes, Jaden Warren comes into the lineup for Devin Singletary, so Viv is rocking the 30 personnel this week. 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. On Great Scott's side of the board, let's see here, he has brought Rashad White in for Devon Achan, who was inactive last night, so he's also rocking the 30 personnel. 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. The history of this matchup, who took the first one between these two? Viv did, 1-0. Chris, can Great Scott make this an interesting finish in the Portsmouth division?
Yes, they can. And why that is you look there, and Dream Team's, I would say, Premier. I know they've got a lot of players there, but I would say they're absolute top draw players. Hill and Lamb both played for give or take 30 points. Great Scots, Premier players. Russ and Brown and Mostert have combined for just over 30 points. You throw in Gibbs and a bit of Breece Hall, and the difference there is the 17 points that the 49ers do score. So there's 17 points to find to make this game for Great Scott really, really interesting. And I feel as though it's there for this team this week, because you look at Lawrence, that he's playing Houston. I know that he's come against the Texans, hasn't done well in years gone by, but he's come off a good week. And this should be a bit of a shootout.
They were using Lawrence. Sorry to they did change the usage of Lawrence a bit in last week's game. A lot more snaps under center. They were getting him on the move, rolling out bootlegs and that kind of nature as well, and even using his legs a little bit more. So yeah, like you say, maybe they're just trying to approach it a little bit differently to get him going. Absolutely,
and that's what they need, and obviously it works, because they absolutely decimated the Titans. I mean, let's be honest. And in a very key divisional matchup as well. Jamar Chase, obviously, we're trending down a little bit, especially against Pittsburgh, but they are playing at home. for what that's worth, but that defense is mean. It's mean defense, especially the quarterback. That's it's not Joe Burrow. And then so Rashad White's been pretty consistent throughout most of the year, and then the defense and kicker. I like the Broncos D. I don't like them playing against Cleveland this week necessarily because they come up against that Russian attack. But
see, I've got a different take on that because DTR was serviceable last week. He put the ball in the air a lot, but they still only scored 13 points, and he didn't look great. He made no attempt to push the ball down the field. This Denver defense has been much improved compared to what it was when they conceded 70 points to Miami back at the start of the season. I take your point. The running game is reasonable, but if they can key in on that and just say, okay, go on DTR, try and beat us. Their secondary is pretty good with Satan and everything as well. This is in Mile High too. Let's not forget.
It is a disgusting place to go in November. I mean, not Denver. That is. Denver's a nice place to go no matter where it is. If you're going to do professional sports, it's not the place to be in November. So it's certainly the back end of it. It's high and it's cold. What's on the other side? I don't like Justin Herbert against Baltimore. Just gonna go there. I know that they got to come across the country, but Baltimore are on a roll, and the Chargers just seem to just choke at every turn this year, no matter where they go. Yes, he's put up a good score last week, but I don't trust the offense whatsoever. Etienne against Lawrence on the other side. We've seen even in blowout wins, Etienne being used but not necessarily scoring. Jalen Warren's been really good, and Will Lutz, the kicker, playing at altitude in November with clear air, blue skies, and 60-yard field goals on offer. Not like about that. So, that being said, I think all in all, I like the Dream Team because they're on that roll. They've got that 17-point start, and if they can maintain that, then they're going to win the game. But there is a way to win for Great Scott. I think they're going to make it interesting, but not quite enough to beat the Dream Team.
Well,
I'm going to lock. It's only fair in this game. I think we'll do it this week because there are so many games that are decided already.
Yeah.
If we just we'll lock the marquee matchup this week only. Because it's in flux.
Okay, fair. So are you demanding that I lock up in this game as well then, Chris? Is that
yes?
Okay, all right. Well, I'm going to go the other way then because I'm going to lock up Great Scott, which to be fair, I was close to doing anyway. I would have gone with the lock of your team in your game. Otherwise, I would have gone with you for the third week running. But you've deprived me of that, so I will lock Great Scott instead. And I'll tell you why. Because Etienne, his usage has been a bit odd the last few weeks. They were using, was it Dearness Johnson, I think, last week? They've just not been using him as much lately. And the Houston run defense has been, an okay unit this year. Jalen Warren has been really good. The Cincinnati defense, their running metrics aren't great. Obviously, you think the Steelers would prefer to run, but we have a new offensive coordinator. You never really know what's going to happen there when that kind of thing happens in Pittsburgh, so we'll see. And like you said, I have worries about Herbert as well. It's only a 13-point deficit for Great Scott. He's got one extra player over the Dream Team as well. As Dream Team's had, 4 play to Great Scott's 3. So, I'm going to go ahead and lock up Great Scott this week for me. But, profiles to be an interesting game for sure. We'll go on to our next game now. Lazy Townsend take on Predators in a Founder Bowl. Both these teams still mathematically alive in the division, albeit Predators has a much more realistic shot of the division than Ross's team. But Ross's team is projected to win this one 97-82 and already has 42 points in the bag, courtesy of Dash Prescott with 40 and George Kittle with 2. For the rest of the team, Jonathan Taylor comes into the lineup in favour of Marquette Andrews, who is now injured, and that is the only change, I believe, in the skill positions anyway. So he is going with the 13 personnel this week. Running back, 3 tight ends and a wide receiver. On the other side of the board for the Detonators, Devontae Adams comes back into the lineup. I think Ty Chandler comes in as well. That drops Trey McBride and Dalton Kincaid to the bench. I think the other 3 were all starting there last week, so they're going with the 30 personnel, 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time. The Detonators are now, 6-8. They are 6-8 all time against Ross's team. Yeah, could Ross get yet another win? He is truly trying to be the berserker team down the stretch here.
He's definitely going out and coming out swinging. I don't think it will though. I just don't see. I can see where the points could come from, but yeah, there's a lot of teams that are in a bit of a funk. I think Jonathan Taylor against Tampa is going to be the good one because Tampa's run D has been really good.
Yeah.
So Evan Ingram there is just a bit meh. Kelsey's certainly been off the boil this year. He's obviously got his mind on other things. And Stephon Diggs over the last few weeks, I think with some up and down play, certainly in the last couple. But Denver and the Jets are two difficult matchups. Philly's no slouch either, especially away from home.
Well, they've been flamed by receivers this year, much because their run defense has been so good. A lot of teams just choose to pass on them. So,
well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, we saw Sam Howell's done over the last few weeks against them, but then again, like I don't know, there's such flux with that Bills team generally. There's question marks, but maybe not. I think that maybe that he's the. If there's a secondary performer, Patriots D down there as well against the Giants. To be fair to the Giants callback with the Italian sounding surname, whose name escaped.
Tommy DeVito.
That's him. He looked all right last week. So
he was playing Washington though. We must caution that because he did not look. Well, he was playing for a third string backup okay before that, but Washington really made him look a lot better than I think he is. Yeah.
That's it. I'm not sure he's scoring 3 touchdowns against the Patriots. Just say it. But on the other side, Bedetta is now. Let's assume that Ty Chandler comes out because that's probably what I would do, and Kyron Williams comes in.
I think so. Yeah.
Then that looks a lot more solid. So yeah, Jerome Ford against Denver, and as we talked about earlier on, yes, that's a difficult place to go. But Denver are ranked absolutely plumb last in terms of.
But again, I think a lot of that is they were really bad for a long stretch of the season. They have been much improved of late. This is the weird portion of the year where, November is where some of the underlying things start to change a bit, or they can do.
They've only got one way of playing Cleveland. They can only.
It's true.
They can. Surely is the only thing they can do in that game. So he at least getting at the volume.
Yeah.
Against what fashions to be a bottom half defense on the run game, would you say? Kyron Williams comes in at just the right time again. When he's been used extremely well, all bar a couple of weeks earlier in the season. Obviously, he's been injured for a long time, so we don't quite know what's going on there. Again, same thing with DeAndre Swift. It's just like, it's a puzzling usage, but he has got double-digit points in most of the games he's scored this year.
And Buffalo defense sucks since half of them died. So,
yeah. So there you are. Jalen Hurts then fashions to be good. Devontae Adams against the Chiefs. That's
terrible. I would not be playing Devontae Adams. They have been absolutely elite. Doesn't even describe how good they've been against alpha receivers this year.
Yeah. That's it. And do you trust Aiden O'Connell? Do you really?
No.
I don't. And Nico Collins has been, when he's been good, he's been really, really good. But when he's been bad, he's been off the bottom of the scale. But playing Jacksonville, I think that should be okay. That being said, then what do we go for here? I think that Bedetta probably would have been in the driving seat had Dak Prescott not scored 40 points. But I think it's going to be really close. And I think the kicker and D score down the bottom there could be a factor. I'm going to go with Bedetta. It's just.
Okay. Yeah.
Jalen Hurts could comfortably score 30 plus.
He could. Yeah, I'm going to go with Ross's team though. Yeah, that 40 points in the bag, I'll take that. And then I don't mind the rest of the roster. I think Taylor can produce even in a tough matchup. And then I think there's probably enough there. We'll find the points. Ross's team somehow always does. So I think I agree with you. It's probably going to be a close one. But Ross for me. So we'll go on to the. I didn't do the injuries as well. Let me just cover off injuries. I didn't do that last game as well. So Andrew's out obviously with his ankle injury. T. Higgins already ruled out as well, and Kyron Williams will be returning from the IR in the previous game as well. Don't think, Jonathan Foreman groin injury. He did return to a limited practice yesterday, but very questionable, I would say, for Sunday. We'll go on to the next game now. Oh, I think we already had that music. Let's go with this. Oh no, it's this one. Next game in the Divisional Week 12, Gridiron Gang take on Bucking the Trend here, but Gridiron Gang the keeper ahead in the Winchester Division, currently leading up with a 7-4 record. Bucking the Trend fresh off their second win of the season, 2-9. The projections have this one going 131 to 74 in favour of Gridiron Gang, 81 points to 10 on the board as well. Obviously in favour of Gridiron Gang as well. For Gridiron Gang, Tyler Lock only got 3, but that's fine because McCaffrey got 26, Montgomery got 15, Brad Norbury got 8, and the Dolphins defence got 29 on Black Friday. And Tungalo got 10 points as well on Black Friday for Bucking the Trend. Lineup wise for Gridiron Gang, I think Lockett came into the lineup for Jalen Waddle. So Gridiron Gang is showing with the 30 personnel, 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. For Bucking the Trend, let's see here. I think they are unchanged this week, so they're going with the 20 personnel, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time. Gridiron Gang are 1-5 all time against Bucking the Trend, with my first win coming against them earlier this season as well. Chris, can Bucking the Trend pull off the comeback? Let's put it that.
This requires very little analysis here, Nate. Look, I think that you got the Bengals D on the bench. I think if Mike brings in them in for the Eagles, I think that might work. Especially against Pittsburgh's offense, which absolutely sucks ass. Aside from that, Hopkins and Smith could conceivably have good days. I think Carolina and Buffalo say weaker defense.
Well, Carolina have been bizarrely stingy to receivers this year. The past defense hasn't been so bad. Seriously, yeah.
I'm feeling good about that. As a Titans fan, you're coming up against Carolina, who have got nothing to play for. They're just trash. This time of the year, Tennessee are playing at home. It's going to be good. It's going to be a blowout win. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling good, but it's not going to be enough for Mike to win this game, obviously, because there's just too many trash offenses in there. Barkley is the Giants' offense at this point, but playing New England is not good. Jacobs is playing KC, not good. Vegas aren't good. Godwin's been a disappointment. Yeah, and you've already got 80. You scored 81 points, so you've got a 71 point head start. There is no conceivable way without a quarterback score that you're going to be able to go over that. So this is an easy win for you. You're going over 100 points again. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And that's just how far over 100 points you can get. So let's see. But it's obviously a great start. And this is the thing about these two, the games happening on Thursday and Friday, is that this makes my life very easy because you've got already scored 2 quarterback scores. Just need a third one, and you hat-trick your quarterback scores. And you'll keep saying this podcast. You just do not lose when you have more than 2 quarterback scores. If you have 3, even better. Yeah, no,
it's just been a very good start to me. Yeah, watching the Dolphins Jets game last night, it was an absolute beatdown by the Dolphins defense there. I've obviously had 5 players to go, so I've actually only got 3 players left come Sunday. Mike has got most of his team, but yeah, as you say, it's the point. His projection, obviously, it doesn't even reach my current points. For this, Fantasy Pros at the moment is putting my win probability at 98%. Not often you see that at this point in a game week as well. So it's been a good score. It could have been even better. I put Waddle on the bench in favour of Lockett, only by 8 points mine, so not too much of a difference. And yeah, I've obviously still got my quarterback to go as well in Josh Allen. So yeah, the route to a quarterback score is obviously absolutely there. Like you say, Mike's team could still have a decent enough day, but probably not going to be enough. So I'm obviously picking my side as well. I don't mind the Eagles D against Buffalo because from what we've seen from Josh Allen, he obviously is leading the NFL in picks and things. So and that pass rush is pretty feisty as well. So I don't mind the Eagles D play, but yeah, as you say, not much analysis required. I should take this one. We could have arguably even got the buzzsaw out for the preview in that one. So, right, we'll go on to the next game. Then. Oops, no, it would help if I didn't lock my phone there when I'm trying to play the music. There we go. You are Gold taking on Forge Flyers. You are Gold with the longest active win streak in the LOC at 5. Currently the number 1 seed at 9-2. Taking off the Forge Flyers team coming off a win themselves at 3-8. And more than that, they are projected to win 97-74. You are Gold does have the points lead at 42-28, but projections say that doesn't matter. We'll take a look why. For You Are Gold, Brock Purdy scored 13, Metcalf scored 3, Pollard scored 16, Myers scored 9, and the Lions defense only got 1 point against the Packers. Meanwhile, for Forge Flyers, they got 11 from Ayuk and 17 from the Cowboys. For You Are Gold, in terms of lineup changes, I think maybe they're unchanged actually this week. So they've got the 20 personnel, 2 running backs and 3 wide receivers. For Forge Flyers, I think Kyler Murray comes into the starting lineup in favour of Sam Howell. And then Ramondre Stevenson comes in back from bye in favour of... Is it someone you've cut by any chance, Chris?
Who was in there last week who I cut now? Yes, it was Daryl Henderson who was coming from 1 yard cameo.
Yes, of course, yes. Who is now no longer on an active NFL roster. So you are fielding the 30 personnel this week as well. 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time. Forge Flyers, you are 5-4 all time against You Are Gold. And yeah, you could be about to hand You Are Gold their first loss in 5 weeks, Chris.
I hope so. Though I want to see what AJ Brown does against the Bills, because that could be genuinely could be. He's
another one of these teams that's only got 3 players left though. I'd say 13 points up, but only 3 players to go. One of your players is obviously a quarterback as well, so it's yeah.
I'm feeling good. I'm doing right. I'm feeling good. Like the fact that Murray's to play, which is great, and Connor's on the other side. Murray's taking a lot of the Russian stuff away from him, or at least some of it. And yeah, to still have Henry, Hunt, and Stevenson in the game, plus Ridley as well, for what that's worth. I mean, so I don't hang my hat too much on
Zay Jones isn't playing this week, I don't believe, by the sounds of it, so he's not going to do anything. He needs Zay Jones, apparently.
I'm not excited by it. But I am excited about the running backs. So that's something. And hopefully the Jacksonville offense goes nowhere, so Brandon Madison come in and kick 15 points. But we'll see. I'm a bit more buoyant about this particular iteration of the team because it seems a little bit more solid. But yeah, it needs a performer or 2 out of skill positions to be able to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and from the other side, don't get me wrong, 41 points ain't terrible over 4 players.
Well, it's the Lions D that's obviously not been. I mean, Metcalf and Purdy is disappointed as well, so it's not ideal.
Purdy's not ideal. No, I give you that. So look, I'm going to back my team because the hoodoo cannot happen again. Surely not. So especially with that amount of talent still in the game. So I'll go with my team. Maybe only just, but let's go with it.
No, I think it should be your team quite capably as well. Like you say, Brown could have a good day. Connor, I don't know, he's not been particularly great since he's come back from injury with Kyler Murray, and then Addison. Again, Dobbs seems to favour throwing it to Hawkinson and things, so I don't know. There's a slim chance Jefferson could be back this week as well, but I'm not entirely sure at the moment. And then, yeah, for your team, I mean, Murray against LA, I think it's absolutely fine. He'll have a solid day if nothing else. Henry is going to run roughshod over that Carolina defence. I had a stat actually that I think the Titans are undefeated at Nissan Field this season. I think I heard that, so it's a home fortress. So, and then Stevenson could have a good day. And I just think you've got enough there. I think that you should be able to pick this one.
You would like.
Yeah. Injury wise, starting lineup is fine. Damian Pierce sounds like he's going to be making a return this week. from his ankle injury. Supposedly going to be splitting carries as well with Singletary, I saw. Michael Wilson has already been ruled out with a shoulder injury that he has been dealing with. So we will go on to our penultimate game of the week now then. Pakistan take on Tom's Tyrants here, 8-3 wildcard team. Pakistan looking to maybe try and retake their number 1 overall seed against Tom's Tyrants, who are playing for fun at this point. The projections do say Tom Tyrants are going to take this one, 83-73. 17-13 is the current score in favour of Tom's Tyrants as well. We had Garrett Wilson get 10 and Brian Robinson get 6. Meanwhile for Pakistan, AJ Dillon got 8. Zach Charbonnet got 6 and Riley Patterson contributed a whopping -1. Yikes. In terms of the starting lineup, Pakistan, they have started CJ Stroud this week over Jared Goff. Alave and Kamara come back in from the bye. Charbonnet comes in for Kenneth Walker, who's injured as well. So that drops all of Zay Flowers, Kenneth Walker, and I believe Najee Harris to the bench. So he's going with the 30 personnel. 3 running backs, 2 receivers. For Tom Tyrants, Josh Dobbs comes in at quarterback for the injured Joe Burrow. Adam Thielen comes in at the moment for James Cook. And then I think beyond that there, actually Garrett Wilson might have come in there as well, potentially for some they've dropped, or perhaps not. But anyway, they're going with the spread personnel this week, 10 personnel, 1 running back, 4 wide receivers. History of this matchup all time. Tom's Tyrants are 5-6 against Pakistan, so fairly close. Do we have another upset on the offing here, Chris?
Well, he's going to have to lean on those key guys. I mean, like we see there, Stroud, DJ Moore, Alave and Kamara. I think Alave and Kamara is who are, not good. But Stroud's the one for me because we saw him score 50 points 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, shall I say. Hasn't quite hit the height since then. Seen a few more picks in the games, but is a solid 20-point performer. But against Jacksonville, we're likely to see that again. I don't know about that. So, to me, is Pat going to get there carrying a player in this matchup? Probably not. I think Josh Dobbs on the other side for Tom has been remarkable, bearing in mind what he's been up against, and say come to Minnesota and has been he scored, what is that now? It's 3 25+ point victories, performances from him, and then 18 last week playing Denver, and Denver tough, playing Chicago at home in prime time. I quite like that. Especially now, Wilson's got 6, Ed got 10, Robinson's got 6. You've still got Allen and Cup to go. I know they've not been unbelievable, but a bit of a bounce back. Steelers D playing against Cincy as well, always good. He only played Jordan Love with 32 points on the bench. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Gold dust. So I'm going to go with Tom, I think, in this one, just because the maths don't stack up. The 2 guys that Pat's already played, Dillon and Charbonnet, haven't really combined for a lot. He's already carried a player. In fact, he's carried a player with -1 point, one word. So it puts pressure on everybody else, and I just don't think they're going to be able to get it across the line.
No, as I said about the Detroit kicker, 1 PT missed, no field goals. I think they went for it on 4th down 5 times in that game from memory, so at least a handful of those within field goal range as well, so not ideal. Despite all that, though, I am still going to go with Pakistan here because I think this could be a CJ Stroud special because he had a really good day against Jacksonville the first time round earlier in the season. The Saints usually own the Falcons, so Alave and Kamara could have a solid day. Moore should do well, and then the Ravens do. That could be fun as well. As for Tom's team, like you say, Dobbs could have a good day, but beyond that, I'm not really sure what to make of the rest of the team, to be honest. There's certainly players that could have good days, but I also wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't a lot of good performers there. So I kind of feel like Pat might just find a way to win this one here. Injury-wise, so Walker obviously did not play, inactive with his oblique injury. Flowers is questionable but should play. Jefferson, not clear if he's going to play or not. This week in his return from the hamstring injury, they may hold him up through the bye. Obviously, Joe Burrow ruled out with his wrist injury. And then we go on to the last game of the week here. Oh, my jingle is gone. It would help if I brought the jingles back so we can preview the last game, wouldn't it? Here we go. Ixan take on Ben Estes here. Ben Estes looking to snap a 7-game losing streak, whereas Ixan very much looking to keep their playoffs hopes alive. They are projected to win it 95-89. Both teams have 15.4 exactly, so this game is still tied. That's courtesy of Christian Watson and Deebo Samuel, respectively. Likewise for Ixan, Christian Watson came into the lineup in favour of the injured Aaron Jones, otherwise they are unchanged. So he's featuring the 20 personnel, 2 running backs. The receivers for Ben Estes, they are unchanged at present as well, so they're going with 30 personnel, 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. History of this matchup all time, Ben Estes are 7-12 against Ixan. Does Ben Estes snap the losing streak here, Chris?
Well, playing against some tough defensive front, there's 3 running backs, aren't they? Crikey. Look at that. Pittsburgh, Cleveland, New Orleans. Oof.
Yeah, not ideal.
Not ideal. Lamar's been shaky. I know he came out last week. He's still playing the Bills D as well, man. Playing in, oof. So, I said justice for Puka Nacua on the bench. Justice for Harrison Butker on the bench. Justice for them all. Justice for Gus Edwards. So, let them loose. Whilst on the other side, I mean, Ben's ain't much better, but it's, Madison's out of sorts. Hector's playing Baltimore, which isn't good. And Christian Kirk's been pretty consistent. Evans has been pretty consistent. Mahomes, though, playing Vegas, and Vegas should be a bit of a demolition job, as should the Chiefs do. For me, there's enough question marks over Ben Estes' 3 running backs. And I've got equal questions over Eckler and Madison, to be quite honest, but there's only 2 of them, so there you go. Then be the maths. I think that the defenses, Bills did get us absolutely scored on, whilst the Chiefs isn't. So yeah, that's the difference in the games. And quarterback wise, I feel much better with Mahomes playing Vegas than I do with Lamar going across the country. So yeah, Ixan for me, Ben Estes to lose once again.
Yeah, I think Ixan for me as well. Would not surprise me if this is a pretty gross, low scoring game overall. Kind of has that feel, like you say, with my dad's current lineup, some bad matchups. Marquise Brown might not play. Hopefully my dad will change his team if he doesn't. We don't know what we're going to get out of Mixon McPherson without Burrow there. And Robinson could be good, because I think Arthur Smith's realised he's going to swiftly get pink slipped unless he starts using his 3rd overall running back properly. And then for Ixan, as I said on the recap, it's testament that he's still starting Alexander Mattison, and that's arguably his best option among his bench players. I get why he's benching Sutton, but I don't know, Sutton's just been getting those touchdowns this year, so I partly think I'd maybe just stick with him, but he's not. Eckler, as I say, it looks like maybe age is catching up with him or something else. Evans should have a decent day. Who knows what we're going to get from Mahomes? It could be a good day. I think Max Crosby might be out, so it's going to be a very soft Raiders D. Maybe a get-right game for them, but obviously the Chiefs D is a pretty smash spot, I would say, against the Raiders there as well. So yeah, Ixan for me. That brings us to the end of the show. Oh, injury. Screw out, I went to the injuries there. That brings us to the end of the show then. So yeah, 3 games to go, or 2.5, given we're quite a way through these ones here. So lots of intrigue for the rest of the LOC season here. Thank you for joining us once again, Chris.
You're welcome. It's good to be here.
Good, yeah, glad to have you. With that, I'll say, obviously have a great weekend. Best of luck in your matchup, unless you're playing me, of course, because that would be quite the comeback, Mike. Otherwise, goodbye, everybody.